John had always lived by a simple code. Hard work and sacrifice would one day earn him respect. As a single father raising 2 children in Texas after his wife walked out, this code was all he had. He poured his life into his son Michael and his daughter Anna. He gave them everything a father could give: food on the table, a roof over their heads, a chance at an education, and a love so vast it filled every empty space his wife had left behind. He believed with every fiber of his being that when the time came for them to honor him, they would, but they didn't. The betrayal wasn't a loud, dramatic explosion. It was quiet, like a door softly clicking shut, locking him out of the lives he had built. They excluded him from their celebrations, from their triumphs, from their new families. They treated him as if he were a ghost, a relic from a past they'd rather forget. And so, when they finally came crawling back, desperate and in need, John's silence became his justice. Let's go back to the beginning. John's life was a testament to relentless effort. By day, he worked construction, his body aching under the brutal Texas sun. By night, he drove a taxi, chasing fares through the sprawling city streets while the world slept. His hands were a roadmap of calluses and scars, his back perpetually bent from labor. But his spirit, his resolve for his children, was unbreakable. Every single dollar he earned was carefully saved, not for himself, but for their future. He was a master of denial. He'd skip meals, telling himself he wasn't hungry, just so Michael and Anna could eat their fill. He wore the same pair of worn-out boots for years, patched and repatched, so they could have new shoes for school. He never once complained. His sacrifice was his purpose. Michael was the ambitious one, his eyes set on climbing the corporate ladder. Anna was the creative soul, her mind filled with art and dreams. John saw their potential, and he believed they would soar to heights he could only ever dream of from the ground. His own dreams were simple. He pictured himself sitting in a crowded auditorium, tears welling in his eyes as he watched them walk across the stage at their graduations. He imagined being a guest of honor at their weddings, beaming with pride. Most of all, he longed to hear those 3 simple words: "Thank you, Dad." That was all the payment he ever wanted. Years flew by, and the time for John's dreams to come true arrived. Michael was the first to graduate from college, a milestone John had funded with countless hours of sweat and lost sleep. There was a ceremony, a big celebration with friends and family. But John wasn't invited. He wasn't even told. He found out by accident, scrolling through Facebook and seeing a neighbor's post. There was his son in his cap and gown, smiling brightly for the camera. And there was John, sitting alone in his quiet house, his phone silent on the table, waiting for a call that would never come. The pain was sharp, a physical ache in his chest. Then it was Anna's turn. She got married in a small, intimate ceremony. She told her friends, her colleagues, even distant relatives. But she didn't tell her father. When John, hearing the news secondhand, finally mustered the courage to ask her why, her response was a dagger to his heart. She said coolly, "It was just for close people. Close people." Those two words echoed in the empty rooms of his house. They replayed in his mind over and over, each time cutting deeper than the last. He, the man who had given up his own life for hers, was not considered close people. The foundation of his world crumbled in that moment. The man who had been their rock was now just a pebble they had kicked to the side of the road. But John did not scream. He did not rage or beg for their attention. His heartbreak was a private affair. Instead, he did something far more powerful. He stopped sending them the extra money they'd still occasionally ask for. He stopped answering their casual, non-essential phone calls, the ones where they'd talk about themselves for 10 minutes before hanging up. He stopped being the invisible, ever-present safety net, the silent backbone of their comfortable lives. His withdrawal was so quiet they didn't even notice at first. They were too busy with their own worlds. But soon, the consequences of his absence began to surface. Michael, who had always viewed his father's wallet as an extension of his own, called asking for help with his rent. John's voice was calm, devoid of the anger raging inside him. He simply said, "Respect comes before support, son." The line went silent. Not long after, Anna called. Her new apartment needed furnishing, and she casually asked for a few $1,000s. John's reply was just as measured. "I gave you everything once, Anna. Now it's time you learn to give yourself something." His silence wasn't a sign of weakness. It was the ultimate assertion of his strength, his self-worth. It was the only language of consequence they might understand. Months passed in this new, silent reality. Then, the inevitable happened. Both children returned to his doorstep, not in triumph, but in defeat. Michael's high-flying career had collapsed, his ambition outpacing his abilities. Anna's whirlwind marriage was already failing, the foundation as shallow as her reasons for excluding her father. They were broken, desperate, and finally, they needed him again. They came to his house, the same house they had abandoned, and stood before him. This time, they were the ones asking for entry. John looked at his children, his heart a battlefield of emotions. He saw the pain in their eyes, the desperation, but he also saw his own reflection, a man of dignity, a man who had finally reclaimed his power. His voice, when he spoke, was heavy with the weight of their betrayal. "You forgot me when you were celebrating your victories. Why should I remember you in your time of need?" The truth of his words hit them like a physical blow. They cried, they pleaded, they begged for the forgiveness and support they had once taken for granted. And in that raw, painful moment, John began to teach them the lesson they had so arrogantly ignored for years. Love is not a one-way transaction. It is not a bank to be withdrawn from at will. It is a sacred bond built on respect, on mutual sacrifice, on presence. It is showing up for each other in the good times as much as the bad. In the end, John did forgive his children. A father's love, even when deeply wounded, is a powerful, resilient thing. But he never forgot the lessons he had learned and the lessons he had to teach. His silence had been his weapon. His dignity had been his quiet revenge. He didn't need to shout to be heard. He simply had to show them that a father's love is a privilege, not a right. He showed them that betrayal has consequences and that respect is and always will be the true foundation of a family. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next video.